Welcome to the Pioneers in Pixels audio podcast, hosted by Sanjay K Khetarpaal, CEO of Marketing Markers, a digital marketing agency. Here we have discussions with some of the leading attorneys. Disclaimer: the podcast is for educational purposes. Please reach out to attorneys for legal advice.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Sanjay K Khetarpaal, and you're on my channel, Precision, and talking to the criminal defense attorney, Eric Morrell. And Eric, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Sanjay. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's an honor to be talking to you today. So first, generally, when I get in my podcast, I generally ask the first main question that, Eric, talk about you, who you are, what you do, why you do. I just want to hear your story, Eric. Just go ahead, give our listeners something about how you got into this profession and why.
Okay, so I'm Eric Morrell. I have a law practice in New Brunswick, criminal defense practice. I've been doing this for more than 25 years. I always tell people I'm doing it right for more than 25 years. And the reason I got into this profession, I was trained by a local criminal defense attorney. He had about 50 murder trials under his belt. I did 2 years with him, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the challenge, and I liked trying to get people into a better place. And that's kind of where I went. And I got a lot of training, got a lot of jury trials working for him, and a lot of experience. And I did that for about 2 years, and then I went on my own.
Okay. Eric, tell me, we were talking earlier that you mentioned that the kind of why you got into this profession, it's kind of the way you are trying to help the community do better. Just talk about a little bit about that too. I think that was very profound, I heard.
So the reason why I became a criminal defense attorney is when I was young in elementary school, I was asked to defend the month of February. We put a play together because February had not too many holidays. It wasn't a month that was a serious month. So I became the defense lawyer for the month of February. I was probably in second, I might have been in third grade, and I enjoyed defending the month of February. It became something interesting to me, and I was like, I like being a defense lawyer. I like doing this. It's very, interesting to me. And if you want, you could even look it up, but it's a real play, defending the month of February. Other schools have done it. We did it in New Jersey, and it was very, very lasting, and I did a nice job, and I really enjoyed representing the month. And that's really where the start of the interest of being a defense lawyer, because I was defending February.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you. So when I represent a client, the goal is to get them better. When they come to my office, they usually have a lot of stress going on. Sometimes there's mental illness. Sometimes there's anger issues. Sometimes they're addicted to different drugs, and we're trying to get them better. So my goal is when they come here, I try to take the pressure off them, and I handle legal matters, and I say, you do your best to get better. I send them to psychologists, social workers, anger management people, batterers programs, anything I think might help them. And of course, the goal is to get them to become positive members of society. And in turn, I let the court know that they're doing better and they're doing all the things right. And we try to get them, better. And again, make them positive, contributing members to society.
This is so awesome. Okay, so let's delve into a little bit of quite a lot of common misconception, I would say, or misunderstanding. What are the common misunderstanding do people have about criminal defense work, and any ways you want to address them? Because the moment they say criminal defense attorney, people are like, oh, I don't know what I'm getting into. So there are a lot of misunderstanding about it. I just want to see if you've heard about that. What are your thoughts?
So, people are charged with crimes, and many times when they're charged with crimes, they're usually not guilty of about 20% of what they're charged with. And of course, everyone is entitled to a defense. And my goal is to do the best I can for them and get them the best results. I would say another misconception is that just people that are not of means commit crime. That's not true. People of all backgrounds, nationalities, social status commit crime or are charged with crime. And I defend everybody to the best of my ability in all different backgrounds.
Interesting. Great. So what are the common situations that can happen to like any of us on a regular basis, and we don't know whether we should reach out to you? Is it the right to reach out to the criminal defense attorney? Or I don't know. I'm not sure about this. A lot of people just don't even come forward, and they should. And if any of your experience, if you have any experience on these kind of people and you work through that, what would be those common incidents or situation when people should reach out to a criminal defense attorney?
So a lot of times people will talk to their friends and the neighbors and say, oh, my son has a warrant. Police came to our house and talked to my son or daughter. I really don't know what to do. That would definitely be a time to call me. But another example, a few months ago, another lawyer that we're both familiar with called me and said, I have a family and there is an issue with a stolen wallet and the police want to talk to them about a stolen wallet. So immediately my ears went up and I said, it's more than a stolen wallet. So I found out the story. It was a very involved story. It had really nothing to do with the stolen wallet, but the police wanted to talk to this person for something much more serious. And of course, I was able to protect the person, make sure that they didn't talk about anything in regard to this information. And we ended up getting a better result, a much better result. And the client was appreciative. I think the court understood the issues and those things come up. And the general public deals with the police usually when they're stopped in a traffic offense. And I just tell people in those situations, just be cordial, be polite, make sure you have your hands on the wheel and give them what they ask for. And usually it will be a much better situation than if you're not polite and answering questions. I wouldn't give statements, but you can give them your name and where you're coming from and just generally be cordial and polite and you'll get a much better result later.
Interesting. That is very valuable. I know that you work with the DUI, guns, weapons, and crimes. Can you talk about some of the things, some of the situations where it'll be helpful for the people or the listeners to see that, okay, this kind of incident happened. What should I do? Is there any examples you can quote it out?
So you're talking about like more serious cases?
Well, any kind of serious cases. Yeah, serious cases are also there. Some of them are like very petty stuff. Some of them are really serious. Just want to hear the breadth of it, saying that, hey, if something like that happens, you need to reach out to me immediately. This is very important. And some of the cases might be like, don't bother. This is okay. You don't have to worry about it. Something like that,
Okay. So recently I had a fact pattern where I knew that the person that was charged with a crime, the family came to me and they were already incarcerated. So when that happens, you need to get to me as quick as you can because I, as opposed to other lawyers, file what's called an opposition to detention. Usually when someone is arrested, the prosecutor's office will review it and they'll decide within, usually it's hours, they have to decide if they're going to file what's called detention. And if they file, then the prosecutor's office is going to put all these documents together saying what the person did wrong. And you need me in early because then I could file what's called an opposition to detention. And there's also like a special rubric that the courts use. It's called like a PSA. It's a little involved. It's like a numbers where they try to figure out what your propensity to come to court and if your crime is a violent crime. And so that's something that I know how to deal with. I know how to calculate and figure it out. And when that comes up, you want a good criminal defense attorney to know how to handle it. So then when you file what's called an opposition to detention, you're letting the court know all the good things about your client. And sometimes this rubric that they figure out is not always correct. So that's really some reason why you need a criminal defense attorney early on in the case.
And are there any situations where people reach out to you and you are like, no, this is not something which you should be fighting for, and you should not come with it? Or is that situation arises even like people reach out to you for every small little petty things and saying that, hey, can I sue somebody on this one?
Sometimes people call me and they're wrongfully arrested, or the police came to their home and searched the home. They weren't supposed to search the home unless they're injured or they're arrested for a very longer period of time, or something was damaged or taken. I don't think you need to be involved in filing like a civil rights lawsuit. Sometimes people make mistakes, but I get those phone calls a lot. I mean, there are times where I do refer those civil rights cases to other lawyers because that's civil, but most of the time, unless there's real injuries or damage, I usually don't think you need to pursue those things.
Okay. Good. So talk to me about that. If somebody approaches you saying that there is a challenge, there is an issue, there is a situation, how your office work or how a different criminal defense attorney generally works in bringing them in, talk about it, what kind of things you understand, strategy you understand. I'm just trying to see that if there is something somebody coming to your office need to get a little bit prepared, saying that, okay, I'm going to be a criminal defense attorney. These are the things I need to prepare with. So just guide them that when they're reaching out to you, do they need to do something, or just show up and then we'll start from there? What's the process?
So before they come in, I usually have an intake and we discuss all their background, some basic information. But I always say, look, if you have a resume together, that would help, because I could use that in my opposition to detention, and I could use that to defend you. I also try to tell them to put a narrative together. A lot of times we take the narrative over the phone first, so I have some basic information. And then when they come in, I take a much more detailed narrative, so things are fresh in their head. I mean, I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah. So it's very important. Sometimes they reach out to you right away. Sometimes they reach out to you like a couple of months later or something like that. Is there a time limit when they should reach out to you? Like, hey, this happened like 6 months ago. Can I still reach out to you? Or there is a limit? Go ahead.
I mean, you can. The best time to reach out is when you're charged. And of course, before you're incarcerated. You can reach out when you're incarcerated, and you can reach out when you're released. You could sometimes people reach out after they're indicted. They have a public defender or they have a lawyer they're not happy with. They're indicted. That means 24 people have listened to the prosecutor present the case, and they've decided this is enough information to indict. And a lot of times they come to us after they're indicted. I don't recommend that. I recommend very early on, because there's things we could do in anticipation of being indicted. Sometimes you're charged with a crime and you've never been charged with a crime before. And we have the ability to get somebody into what's called PTI, which is pretrial intervention, which most people, lay people, don't know. But if you get charged with a crime, if you are able to get into PTI, which a skilled criminal defense attorney knows how to make the arguments, you could then have no criminal record. And for a year, you stay out of trouble, or 2 years, you stay out of trouble, or 3 years. And it's like it never happened. But there's work that needs to be done to get people in PTI. Certain charges, if you want to apply to PTI, you have to do what's called a compelling reasons brief. And I know how to do them. I do them frequently. And I know what the prosecutors and the courts want to see in a compelling reasons brief. That's some area that we have a specific skill set in.
That's awesome. Okay, so I was just wondering that the landscape of criminal defense evolved since you began practicing. You said 25 years. What has changed? What has changed over the period of time? It is good, bad? What is it? What is your thought process on those?
Okay, so change-wise, of course, a lot more people are charged with more serious crimes, and the less serious crimes usually resolve in municipal court. That's a change. Years ago, more of the matters would be, the serious cases would be remanded to the local towns and would be resolved in the local town courts. Mm-hmm. But now, more of the cases are handled at the county level. That's something that I've noticed over the years. And a lot of these county courts don't remand cases to the local courts. I think it's maybe because they have so much action at the local court level that they don't want to receive the county courts cases. That's what I think is going on. There are some counties that still what's called remand, but it's good to have a lawyer that's able to get your case remanded from the county to the local courts, but it's not done as frequently as it used to be.
Interesting. So in what you do, how do you stay current with the legal precedents and the changes in the criminal law? What you do? I mean, go ahead.
So I go to many continuing education classes for the areas of law that I practice. All competent criminal lawyers do that. I also run and proctor some of those seminars and lead them over the years of my practice. And that's the way that we stay current. Other colleagues, we all pass cases around, reported decisions, and we learn from that. I'm also in a special group of DW lawyers throughout the state, and DWI is a very changing area of law. There's been a lot of changes in the last few years, and I go to a group and we all meet once every couple months and we discuss the changes in new case law, how the courts are dealing with certain things, and that's basically how I stay abreast of everything.
So that actually, I was thinking about it, that you work with a lot of Rutgers students too. So what guidance you would offer to any law students or young lawyers aspiring to enter the criminal defense? So
I do have a program in my office where I hire Rutgers students My office is in New Brunswick, and I interact a lot with the Rutgers students, so I usually have them. And I just say you have to have good interpersonal skills to work in an environment like here. And many of them then go on to law school. I try to teach them how to do sentencing briefs and compelling reasons letters. And you need like analytical skills. You need to be comfortable in your own skin and be able to have writing skills and be able to convince somebody of your position and your side. I think those are traits that you need. I'm always looking for new staff. I just hired somebody today, actually, somebody locally who's at Rutgers. She's going into her senior year, and we interviewed a bunch of people, and we just hired her today, and she's looking forward to it, and it'll be a nice stepping stone for her before law school.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So, and what kind of current challenges in criminal defense law, and how do you navigate them? I mean, are there any challenges like when you operate and work, and how do you navigate through those kind of challenges? Like, oh my God, this is not great. This is not good. Something should have changed.
So some people really like these Zoom courts. Well, during the pandemic, there was a lot of Zoom court, and it's good for the smaller cases where you don't have to drive and your client doesn't have to be inconvenienced at night to drive 75 miles or 50 miles.
Yeah.
But you don't get the same presence when you're on a Zoom at night where the court and the staff and the judge doesn't see you. It's harder to present documents. It's harder to do certain things. So I don't like it as much. I will, of course, engage in it. But if there's an opportunity where I could be in the courtroom on the municipal court level, I want to be in the court. The county court, they were on Zoom and now they're not. It's much better to be in the county courts in person with your presence. I'm 6'2", 200 and something pounds, and I have a presence, and I want the court, and I want the judge to see I'm sincere, and I want the staff to see I'm sincere. And I think you need to be in the building. You got to be in the arena,
Get in the ring with me.
Yeah. So that's something that's changed, but we learned to work with it. And I have articles about representing people in Zoom court and how to do it effectively out there. And it's just something you just have to work with and figure out. It's more convenient for the courts. And I think for the staff, they don't have to hire security in some of these town courts late at night, saves them money. But we work within the system as best we can.
So you talk about pandemic, and I believe that pandemic has changed a lot more than just being the Zoom court. What all things have changed? Is there something new being introduced? I know that Zoom has changed a lot of things, and rather seeing people in face to face and see the body language and the tone and sound and how the people behave when they are like sitting around versus just doing a Zoom, which is very kind of only over the voice. But there are a lot more things which pandemic might have brought in because people cannot come or travel. What has changed other than this?
So during the pandemic, I apologize, Sanjay. Yes. During the pandemic, there were jury trials conducted from Zoom. Now, that's not really happening anymore, but it's not the best way to try a jury case. Right. I actually just did a court yesterday in Somerset County, and a colleague of mine was trying a jury trial. And the doctor indicated that he's not going to be available on this criminal case tomorrow, and it has to do it on Zoom. Now, in some ways, it could benefit the defendant. In some ways, it could possibly benefit the state. But there's negatives because on cross-examination, you want to see how people are reacting. You want the jury to see how the people that are being cross-examined are reacting. And you're assessing their truthfulness, their honesty. And I don't think it's the best thing. So I think you really need to be in the courtroom and delivering your product and your work in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned jury selection. From your perspective, how critical is the jury selection process, and any strategies you use to that can help our listeners saying that I'm in the right hands?
Right. So it's critical. You get challenges, of course. There are certain strategies that defense lawyers use. I'm not going to really discuss the length of my strategies, but it has to do with people's professions and maybe their life experience. You ask questions so you can figure out some of their life experiences. You want to know if they're a victim in a crime. You want to know how they grew up. And a lot of times, profession is a key factor in my thinking when I pick a jury, whether they're going to be more analytical. Because when you try a jury trial, the state has to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. So sometimes scientists are better to have on a jury for the defense. And sometimes people in the medical field people that are involved maybe in the chemical industry, because they're more exacting, and you want to be able to show people that the state has not proven the case. So that's a little area of mine that I try to use. I like scientists and things, people like that. Architects I want on my jury. Engineers I want on my jury.
Interesting.
That's a little bit of the background. It's a little bit of the method to my picking a jury. Okay. There's way more involved, but just life experience, trying jury trials in different counties and fighting for people throughout the state.
Interesting. So again, one more thing which come out, because I was thinking about jury trials and other. Have you handled any wrongful accusation? I think you mentioned that briefly. I think you do, but I just want to know, are you handling it, and what kind of approach you take? Because these are a lot of things which I was reading about it, and people have, hey, how do the criminal defense attorney manage that stuff? So talk to me about that. Give us an example or so that probably might help the listener understand better where you're coming from.
Wait, someone's convicted of a charge they shouldn't be convicted of?
Yeah, wrongful accusations kind of thing.
Right. I mean, that's my whole job, is to fight for people. If I think that they're charged with crimes that they shouldn't be charged with, that's what I do. I just had a fact pattern where I'm going to court on Monday, and I just reviewed the paperwork, and I noticed that the client was indicted on something that there's no evidence that they should have been indicted on. So I emailed the prosecutor and I said, you need to look over what happened. I'm going to order what's called the grand jury transcripts, but I already proved to the judge that this issue was not an issue, and I provided defenses early on at the detention hearing. So I don't know what happened with the prosecutor's office, but there should be no reason why my client is charged with that part of the crime. There were other crimes that were appropriate, but not this crime.
Interesting.
Hopefully that helps, Sanjay.
No, that does. Because I was trying to see the listeners try to understand from a listener's point of view that there could be certain cases, certain type of situations. If there is something like that, if you can mention, people can connect the dots well, saying that, that kind of situation I was in. So seeing that if there are any examples in your experience and knowledge, if you can share that would kind of a little bit connect the dots better with the listeners, if you have any. Right.
Sometimes for the listeners, sometimes prosecutors rush to judgment. Sometimes they don't have all the evidence and they already see one person in the house and it's somebody else that's not in the house, but the person is really close to them. Sometimes prosecutors and investigators don't speak to other witnesses to see what happened. They just get one side of the story from the victim and they get the other side of the story from the defendant, and they don't look and see the independent people. They should canvass the area. That's what they call it, canvassing, and make sure they speak to all the people that were there or that are familiar with the facts. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. So that's something that I'm aware of and I use in my defending a client.
So a couple of more things. So one question I want to throw it in there, since I'm from digital marketing world, I just want to understand that how is digital marketing helping you? Is it helping you? If that is not, what can be done differently to help a digital marketing help you to reach out to the people who are actually in need of these kind of services?
Right. So I have a website, which I think is pretty powerful. And I do a lot of social media. I post on social media, and I think the social media really drives traffic. I'm on Twitter, we now call X, pretty active on Instagram. And for the older generation, I post on Facebook. But I also have videos out there, YouTube videos, which I'm proud of. And I think it helps. And I think it really lets people in and know who you are and what you're about. I try to do videos of me in action in different scenarios, not in the courtroom, but in other scenarios, and being able to explain different cases. And I think digital marketing is very important. This day and age, I'm close with a lot of college students. They all come to me through Instagram and all the social media that's out there. And they contact me and say, I need your help, Eric. So I'm pretty active on social media.
Pretty interesting that you said, I need to order people with Facebook. The Facebook has reached that level. People are talking about being ordered people, and Instagram, like Gen Zs generally are getting into TikTok and Instagram. So I think what is right. So
100% sure. My children, they don't even post on these. They're on Snapchat and they're looking at TikTok and they're doing reels on TikTok and watching TikTok. They don't even post on those social medias that I mentioned. So that's the next generation.
You're right. And my daughter doesn't even want to create an account in the Facebook. So that explains, like all these Gen Z, they're like what that is for old people, Facebook. I think that's kind of a reputation it's getting it. But in any case, Facebook and Instagram does have like 2 billion of viewership. So it is still a lot. there.
Right. It's also worldwide. It's also worldwide.
Yeah.
Right.
I have asked a few of questions. There are certain more details. If you'd like to mention, I just want to open the floor. If you have any other detail you would like to mention, and I would like to see that if you can give your contact details. So if somebody like our listeners would like to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you? What do they should do? And things like that, Eric. Please go ahead.
So as I said, I have a law practice in New Brunswick. I'm on Livingston Avenue in New Brunswick. I also have a satellite office in Scotch Plains. The best way to reach out to me is my phone number. It's 732-249-9933. I have knowledgeable staff here that'll be able to listen to your issue and concern, and they can get the information to me, and I should be able to get right on the phone and talk to you and hear what you're all about and what the situation is. I mean, you could also reach out to me on all my social media platforms. Of course, on Facebook, it's EBM Law. On X, Law EB Morrell. On Instagram, it's eric.b.morrell. And I think there's a lot of great content on there. You can get to know about me, and you can contact me that way. I could also give you my staff's email. It's admin@EBM, as in Eric Brian Morrell, or E is elephant, B boy, M Mary. So EBM, admin@EBM or /law.com. And I'm always willing to talk to people, try to help them. I'm very accessible, and I always have good staff, good Rutgers students that help me. They're here to help me. They're out in the community with me, and I'll do the best I can for you.
That's great, Eric. Thank you so much. And I saw Eric's website. He's a fighter, not a handshaker. You are in good hands when you reach out to Eric. Thank you.
Right. So that's my tagline, a fighter, not a handshaker.
I love that.
Just to end, I'm pretty proud that I just received the Middlesex County Bar Municipal Court Lawyer Practice of the Year. So, of course, I'm a criminal defense attorney, and underneath criminal defense work is municipal court work. So I was honored by my county bar, and it was a nice event, and I'm honored to receive it. And I fight for people, whether they have something that's not so serious, like a municipal court matter or a DWI, or something that's much more serious, like a gun case or a drug case or a weapons case or even a sex case. I'll be there to handle it and do the best I can and try to get you to a better place.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. This would be very valuable for our listeners when they're kind of on this one. Thank you.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and it's here and very accessible, and I'll fight for you throughout the state of New Jersey. So if you need me, I'm there for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Pioneers in Pixels. We hope the discussion was enlightening and informative, giving you a clearer insight into the complexities. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and never miss an episode. Join host Sanjay K Khetarpaal next time for more insights and interviews with leading legal experts. Until then, stay informed and empowered. This has been Pioneers in Pixels. Thank you for listening and have a great day.